Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to do a bit of a different video. Since the NBA season is just around the corner, starting in a few days, this Wednesday I believe, we're going to go through my standings for each conference, and we're also going to be doing my MVP and my champion prediction. Who will be the champions for 2025? I can't wait. So let's start off with the Western Conference because I feel like that's more of the interesting one. And starting off at 15th, this one was sort of easy for me. I'm going to go with the Portland Trailblazers. I just think it's probably more of the safer option. There are a few contenders here for the likes like, the Jazz, the Spurs, but, I feel like they're two better teams. I just feel like you've got to go with Portland just because, they're just lacking so much experience. They're such a young team. They've lost Damian Lillard a couple years ago. And yeah, we really saw that they struggled last season, which was a main issue for them banking up wins, and yeah, they really struggled to get a few wins last year. Now they do still have a couple of young guys in there like Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, a couple of players like them that will just help them get a few more wins for the 2024 to 2025 season. But yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty long season for Trailblazers fans, and that's why I have them in at 15th. Coming in at 14th, now this was a really, really hard one. And I actually feel bad. They shouldn't be this low. But I'm going to put the Utah Jazz here. Now, the Jazz definitely, to me, aren't the 14th seed. It was just sort of hard between them, the Spurs, and a couple of other teams that are coming up on this list, where to put them. But, the Jazz, they've still got some quality players like Larry Marketing, Colin Sexton. I always have a soft spot for them because they've got the Australian man in Paddy Mills who plays on the bench who should be starting. That even like some guys like Jordan Clarkson who are in the roster, I just don't think they're fully experienced enough guys to be competing. But yeah, I definitely think they will get quite a few more wins. Definitely, at least something like 30 wins, which isn't really a 14th seed side. But it's just so much even in the West than the Eastern Conference. So it is tough, but I reckon the Jazz, they're just experienced, sort of just failing them to be a little bit higher. And yeah, I have them at 14th. So that leaves us with 13th now, and I put the San Antonio Spurs. Now, this could be a bit controversial because I think the Spurs should be another good side this season. I think they should get like heaps more wins than 2023 season. That obviously being because they did pick up Chris Paul, who they signed with, who is just a guy that adds lots of depth and experience to the roster. They've got Wembanyama, the number one draft pick of 2023. Obviously, he had an absolute outstanding 2023 season. I don't know why he shouldn't have an outstanding season come round. They've got some really good players like Devin Vassell, who I just rate. But the issue is for them, will they tank out towards the end of the season? So I feel like they always just try to play for the draft pick, and so far it is working. They are slowly improving on the rebuild, but for me, I just don't think they're probably experienced enough. I think they've got some good players, but we'll see them tank out. I feel like they always tank out in games and they just fall away late. So yeah, I'm going to put the Spurs in at 13th. Moving on to 12th now. Now, this is a little bit of a surprise to some people. I'm going to put the Sacramento Kings. Now, this is a very big call. I don't know why. I think the main reason for me, I don't know, I'm just not convinced by them. They've made the playoffs for like the last 4 years, and they haven't really done anything in the playoffs. Now, they are still a very good side. Obviously, they have guys like Demonte Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, but the reason why I have them just sliding down a bit, sorry, it's just because of their injury prone. They are very injury prone players, and I wonder if they do get injured, will they be able to sustain that for a whole season? I feel like they won't be able to, and it's a massive call, but I've got them sliding down to 12th. That probably won't happen, but I can just definitely see it happening. I'm not too convinced on the Kings this year. I think they need to make some moves to their roster to help out with scoring more. So that's the main reason why they're in at 12th. But moving on to the 11th now, a very hyped team coming into this season is the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, you're probably wondering why shouldn't I have them higher? They should be making the playoffs. I know. Well, Ja Morant, I believe, has got a little injury, so he probably won't be playing game one. He got injured in the preseason. And I'm just not as convinced as some other people are on the Grizzlies this season. I know, Ja Morant's back to his best, really healthy. We saw what he did last year when he came back for game one. He hit that buzzer against New Orleans. They are going to be a scary team, Memphis, but not scary enough. I think they'll just miss out on the play-in, unfortunately. They've still got some good guys, obviously, like Ja Morant, Gigi Jackson, Jaren Jackson Jr., some really tall guys that their defense this season is going to be back to its best, like the 2022 to 2023 season. But I just don't think they're good enough for the play-in. I think next year they should be much more scarier. But they can. They're a very injury-prone team, and I think that's what's setting them back. So yeah, I have the Grizzlies in at 11th. Coming in at 10th now, I do have the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, the Clippers, obviously, no one's really convinced on them unless you're a biased Clippers fan. But obviously, there's no hate in this since I am a Lakers fan, obviously. I don't like the Clippers, but, they've lost Paul George, and now that Kawhi Leonard's going to be injured, they're going to pretty much be led by James Harden, who I just don't think quite has not the experience. He's a very experienced player, but I just don't know if he's that guy to really lead a team that far. Now, I definitely do think they're still a playing team because if Kawhi gets back, after 10 games or something, they will be a better side, but I'm expecting a slow start now that, Kawhi Leonard is injured and he could even be retiring. If he retires, that's massive or gets traded. And I just feel like it's almost the end of not a dynasty because they didn't win anything, but, a missed opportunity. Last year was definitely their year to go all the way with that list, but now that PG's been traded and obviously Kawhi Leonard now, I'm not as convinced on them. Now, I do think they'll still make the play-in, hopefully for their sake. And yeah, I think that they're still a good enough play inside, but yeah, I'm not too convinced on the Clippers this year. Moving on to number ninth, now I do have the Golden State Warriors. Now, a lot of people are saying that the Warriors won't make the play-in and fall out. I do get why. I definitely think they will fall out. But I don't think they'll fall out enough. I'm recording this like 5 days before the season starts. Actually, no, only like 3 days. And yeah, they absolutely just thrashed my Lakers twice. They are 6-0 in the preseason, and Steph and Draymond aren't even playing minutes. So I don't know how they are 6-0, but yeah, that's really made them into this ninth spot. They've still got some good guys there like Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, Jonathan Kuminga. Now obviously they did lose Klay Thompson and a few other players, but I actually am not least convinced on them. I still have hope in them. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but I still think they'll make the play-in. Still think they're a good enough side for that play-in spot, and I have them coming in at ninth. I don't think they'll do that badly this season, but obviously they are falling down a bit. Moving on to eighth now, I do have the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, the Pelicans are a tough one because I feel like they could be that fourth seed. But the reason why I do have them in an eighth as a playing team is just because again, injury prone. We all know that, they have a few injury prone players. Obviously, the obvious one being Zion Williamson. Can he just stay healthy for a whole season? He's still a really young player, which most people don't realize. And Brandon Ingram is another one, two of their best players who just get injured all the time. And that really just sets the Pelicans back. When they face these bigger sides like the Celtics, the Knicks, like the Nuggets, the Mavericks, they just can't get over the line against those bigger sides that are much better than them, and that's because of their injuries. So hopefully for them they can maintain a healthy list. And yeah, moving on to seventh now, I do have the Lakers. Now I don't know. Again, the Lakers are a really tough one to rank, but I'm a Lakers fan, so I could be a bit biased, but I still think we're not quite better than a playing team. I still think we're going to be in the play-in, playing the Clippers, which should be a good game if that does end up happening. It's going to be interesting to see how we go this year because we haven't started off well in the preseason. Obviously, you can't really judge that because, we haven't really been playing our best players. My favourite player, Anthony Davis, if he can just get back to his best this season, he had a really good season last year, and I think that was his season where he played the most games. If he can get back to that, scoring 30 points a game with his defense, I think we'll still be a good side. We've still got D'Angelo Russell. Now, if he can maintain his shooting form like towards the back end of last season, I think that we're a really good chance to make that top six. Obviously, still got LBJ, LeBron James going at it. I still think he's a quality player and just really good to have that depth and experience. I think there are some excitements around the club that now that we've signed Bronny James, drafted Bronny James. We've got Rui Hachimura. Can he finally get going this season? He was looking really convincing last season. Still a few young guys, so there's still plenty of ups there. Austin Reeves. Those guys. So yeah, hopefully for my sake, the Lakers can do well this season. I just can't put them any higher than seventh because I do think there are some better teams in the Western Conference. But as you said, again, yeah, I think the Lakers are pretty good, and I have them in at seventh. Coming in at sixth now, a massive riser is the Houston Rockets. The Rockets last season in the Western Conference were unfortunate to miss the play-in. They really should have made it. But I just think this is their year. It could be a year too early, but I think the Rockets rebuild is over. I think last season sort of indicated that they are pretty much ready. And this year, they've just got so many players. Again, I do have a soft spot for them. Obviously, they've got Jack McVeigh, who plays for Tasmania Jack Jumpers as well. He is, I think, he's on the bench. I saw him hit that game winner in the preseason. They've got some really quality players like Alfred Şengün being the obvious one, Lansdale, who I really rate as well, Van Fleet. Who else can I list on the roster? Oh, Dylan Brooks. I just think this is their year to finally push for a playoff spot, and I actually think they'll do it quite well, coming in at number 6 and booking themselves to a confirmed play-on spot and just avoiding the play-in. But yeah, I think there's plenty of upside for the Rockets. One issue is, I guess the experience can sort of lack there. Like, you look at Shane Gooney, he's a really young player. Landau's really young. Van Fleet, he's still pretty young. But, they still have some experience like Dylan Brooks. So I think they should be looking on the up this season, Houston, and I have them in at 6th. Coming in at 5th now. Now, this is a tough one, but this is going to be their year where they finally can do something in the playoffs and actually hold a good position. I have the Phoenix Suns coming in at number 5. Now, the Suns, they're always around this mark. They're like with these 4 or 5 teams that are just so hard to judge. Pretty much from 12th through to 5th. It's just so hard to rank. Sort of like the AFL. But the Western Conference is pretty stacked. But yeah, the Suns, they still got Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. They've got so much experience, but if their young guys can back them up, they've got Nikola Nurkic, some of those guys, their young guys need to step up. This is the issue with the Suns. They have too many players that, one player has a good game, Kevin Durant might have a good game, then Devin Booker will fall off. Devin Booker might have a good game, and then Nurkic just isn't at his best, or some of their young guys doesn't step up. Sort of like a team like the Los Angeles Lakers, I feel, the Phoenix Suns. But yeah, I think there's plenty of upside now. The playoffs is a different story because obviously we know they do fail in the playoffs usually, but I think they can actually win the semi-finals and advance through, possibly make it to a conference finals. I definitely think they're good enough. But yeah, I have them in at number 5. They'll be looking to do heaps this year. Hopefully for them, they can get going, and I have them in at number 5. Coming in at number 4, I do have the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, the Timberwolves are sort of tough again. They could be up there competing for a top 2 spot, but I feel like they will finish in the 4th seed. Now, obviously, the elephant in the room is that Karl-Anthony Towns, they've lost, obviously, who is a massive difference. I think that's what's separating them from a top 2 finish and a top 4 finish. I just think that, now that they've lost him, their defense might not be as good. They've still got Anthony Edwards. Who else can I name? Having a mental blank. But, they've still got so many good players like Rudy Gobert. Their defense is going to be absolutely amazing this year. But I just think losing Karl-Anthony Towns does hurt. Obviously, going to the Knicks, who is going to be one of their biggest competitors. I just honestly can't see them finishing lower than 6th, though. I still think that they're a quality side and that should be at least winning a playoffs round. So, yeah, I have the Timberwolves and at 4. So, yeah, I think the T-Wolves will do pretty good this year. Again, backing up that playoff spot. Coming in at number 3 now, I do have the OKC Thunder, the Oklahoma City Thunder, obviously. Now, they've still got Shea out there going. They've got, some guys that I really rate, like Chet Holmgren, who had an absolute amazing first year. You know, it was pretty much a battle between him and Victor Wembanyama for the Rookie of the Year. But yeah, they should be a scary team next year. The Thunder, just like this season, obviously finishing the 1 seed. It was pretty disappointing the way that they did go out in those final series against Dallas, but I think they're a very good side and they'll still be up there for the 3rd seed. You know, they've still got a few guys on their list that are really good and, yeah, just experienced, and I think they should be up there. And they're a pretty good side, the Thunder, so I think, you know, they've got some young guys and some older guys that are more experienced that will lead them to a playoff spot. Coming in at number 2 now, these was really hard to arrange, but I do have the Dallas Mavericks coming in at number 2, which obviously leaves the Denver Nuggets in at 1. Now we'll get to the Mavericks. The Mavericks this season, I think they should be good. You know, they've got Tim Hardaway, Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic. Now, obviously, Kyrie Irving is coming to the end of his career, obviously soon, but you know, we saw him hit that buzzer in one game last year. He's just absolutely amazing. You know, he's still got it in him. And Luka Doncic, I think this is finally his year, maybe to win MVP. We'll get to that soon. But, you know, he's just such a talented guy from Slovenia. And he's a European that's probably going to go down as one of the greatest Europeans in the game. I just don't know if they can get past the Denver Nuggets, though, who I have in at number 1. And I was a bit skeptical of the Denver Nuggets. Will they be good again this year? I feel like Murray was a bit of a disappointment for them in 2024. Probably costed them those finals, making it to the finals. I feel like he didn't have his best season like he did in 2023, but I think they should be up there, and I have them in at number 1. I still think they're a good side. I think Portis Jr. will also back them up. But obviously Nikola Jokic, who, you know, is pretty good, and Jamal Murray should keep them at that number 1 spot. But I could see them honestly finishing as low as 4th. But I still think they are good for top 4. They haven't looked the best in the preseason, but, you know, it is only preseason, so maybe they just weren't trying or something. But yeah, those are my Western Conference standings. Now let's get into the East. Alrighty, moving on to the East now, and coming in at number 15, again, a few contenders for the last spot, like the West, but I'm going to go with the Brooklyn Nets. Now, the Brooklyn Nets had a really disappointing season last season. You know, I think they are officially in that rebuilding stage after missing out. Like, they made the playoffs in 2022. They obviously missed out last year, and now they're just going into a massive rebuild. The KD thing did not work out, and yeah, that's left them to a rebuild. So I do think they'll finish last this year. They haven't really looked that good in the preseason. They did thrash the Wizards, but I think they're a really young team. They've got some exciting young guys like Cam Thomas, but you know, that's really it for them. So I think number 15 really suits them. Coming in at number 14, now I could have had this team last, but I'm going to put the Washington Wizards here. I have a little bit more faith in the Wizards just that than the Nets, only being just because I feel like, you know, they still have a few more experienced guys like Kyle Kuzma. They brought in number 1 draft pick Alex Sarr, who I got to see play for the Perth Wildcats last year. Hopefully he'll have a very good season in his first season in the NBA. And yeah, I just think they're a young team, but I do think they'll be able to bank a few more wins on the board. But yeah, they could definitely and easily finish in last spot. But I'm going to put them at number 14 for now. So in at number 13th, I do have the Toronto Raptors. Again, they could finish last, but I don't think they will. I think they'll at least a, you know, sort of 25 to 20 win side. I think they'll get those amount of wins. You know, they don't really have many players on their roster that can really do much now. You know, they got rid of Pascal Siakam, who was a player I really rated. Now they just have a young team that will struggle a bit against the massive contenders, get thrashed a couple of times, and that's why I have them in at number 13th. At number 12th, now I could be putting this side a little bit too high, but I have the Detroit Pistons. I have a bit of faith in the Pistons this season. I actually reckon they will improve. You know, they've got Cade Cunningham, who I really rate. You know, they've got some other young, exciting guys, and I just feel like it's time for them to move up in the standings rankings. They finished last in the Eastern Conference last season, so I think they'll be looking to improve. And yeah, obviously they've been really disappointing in these last 10 years, haven't really done much, but I feel like, you know, if they can at least get maybe 25 wins on the board, that would be a pass for me this season for the Detroit Pistons. So I'm going to have them in at number 12. Coming in at number 11th now. Now, this is a side that's just so inconsistent that could really move up the ladder, but I'm going to put the Atlanta Hawks. So I'm not too sure about the Hawks coming into this season. You know, they've still got some guys like Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, who obviously the Lakers tried to get, and I would have loved him adding onto that roster. We're going to trade him for D'Lo, which I probably would have preferred, but yeah, I really rate him. I just think that they'll be have a really another inconsistent year, and unfortunately, I'm going to have them missing out on the playing tournament. Now, are they a play-in side? Absolutely. Are they a playoff side? I don't know. I don't think they are quite ready yet. They need to make some changes with their roster, and they just need to be way more consistent. You know, they got the number one pick this season, Zachary Risses Shah, or however you say it, Risses Shah. So yeah, that's another positive coming into this season for them. So I think they will do quite well, but I don't think they're a playing team for me. Coming at number 10th, another side that I feel like I have a bit high, but I think I'm going to put the Charlotte Hornets. Now, the Hornets, I feel like might be a little bit of a scarier team, you know, getting those about 35 to 40 wins on the board. I actually think now that LaMelo Ball's come back from injury, that will obviously help them out. They have some more experienced guys, and I think this is the year where they can start contending for those higher spots and those against those higher teams in the East and the West. So I actually am pretty confident on the Hornets this season. But yeah, I have them at number 10th. So that leaves us with number 9th now. Another playing team. I'm going to put the Orlando Magic. So I have the Magic sliding a bit from last season. I think they finished 5th or 6th last season. They did obviously make the playoffs. Really positive season for Orlando. But the issue is for me is that they are just a very young team. And I feel like they could slide a bit. You know, they've got guys like Paolo Banchero, who's like in his 3rd season. So they are developing nicely, but I actually think they will slide a bit now. They definitely will make the play-in, I feel, and they'll probably win the play-in, to be fair. I think they will make the playoffs from the play-in, but I don't know if they can just have that consistency throughout the home and away season like we saw them have last year. So they could prove me wrong, but I don't have full trust in the Magic. They always seem to be so inconsistent, and they are still a young team, so I'm going to put them in at number 9th. In at number 8th, I'm going to put the Chicago Bulls. Now, the Bulls for me are a really weird one because I feel like they could possibly push for that playoff spot. You know, they've got some good guys, like they picked up Josh Giddey, obviously the Australian. They also picked up, who else they have Vucevic, you know, Levine, who looked very good in the preseason. And they had a very good preseason, you know, they lost a couple of close games to really good sides, and, you know, they even beat up on the sides like Minnesota, Milwaukee, I think they beat. Just some really good sides, and I actually think they will make the play-in now. I think they'll have a really good year, and I have them in at number 8th. I'm really excited to see what they can do this season. So yeah, I think the Bulls will do quite well, and I think they'll finish 8th. So coming in at number 7th, and again, a sort of bit of a slider, I do have the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, the Bucks, they could be top 3 again, but for me, I don't know. I just don't think it will happen. They looked horrible in the preseason. I know Giannis didn't play that much, but you know, the duo between Dame and Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo we probably haven't seen the best of yet, and I don't know. I just feel like the Bucks, they're gonna start falling away. They've made the playoffs consistently for like the last 6 years, so I'm not too sure if they'll be able to maintain that again this year. I think they're gonna fall away late, and they are gonna finish in 7th. But I still think they're a playoff side. So yeah, have the Bucks in at 7th. Coming in at number 6, this was sort of a tough one, but I have put the Miami Heat. Now, the reason why they make it in at number 6 for me is that they've got some young guys, but they also have some really experienced guys. You know, you look at Jimmy Butler, who had an incredible season last season and the year before when they made it to the finals. You know, he's been absolutely incredible, and they've got some really good young guys like Tyler Hero and just some other young depth players. You know, they've got plenty of good young players, and I think that will help them in coming in at number 6th. So yeah, I'm really positive on the Heat this season. I think they should be able to have another good season. They're a really consistent side. I'm not sure how far they can go in the playoffs. I definitely think they can get past like the semi-finals, and possibly even make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. But I don't think they'll win it this year, but I definitely think they can have a good playoff run, and they're a very good chance to win it. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Miami Heat at number 6. Coming in at number 5th, to switch it up a bit, I do have Cleveland. Now, the Cavs obviously had a really good 2023 to 2024 season. I believe they finished in 4th, and they were a bit disappointing in the finals. They obviously beat the Magic in the first round, then that got eliminated the round after. But for me, Cleveland, they're a pretty good team. I think, they've still got Donovan Mitchell. You've got guys like, who else they've got? I don't know, but they're just a really good side, and I think they'll be able to contend for the top 4, but I don't think they are that quality side. And coming in at number 4th, now I do have the Indiana Pacers. Now, the Pacers, they're one of the teams that I'm really confident on. The issue is for them is that they're still really young. They've got guys like Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, who they picked up, obviously, who I really rate. And I just think they're going to be another good team this year. I think they'll go deep into the playoffs, and I actually think I could see them making the finals, definitely, if they could just get past the sides of the Knicks, the Celtics, who we have seen them get past in the home and away season, but it will be a big challenge come finals time, playoffs time, and I think they can definitely do it, but I'm going to have them in at number 4th. Coming in at 3rd, now I'm going to put the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, I have faith in Philly this year. I don't know how this is going to go. Sort of like the Milwaukee Bucks. If injuries just derail them, Joel Embiid gets injured, Tyrese Maxey gets injured. It's just going to be a horrible season, and they probably will still make the playoffs, but they could be as low as probably 9th or 8th. They're just a really weird one. I don't know what's going to happen with them, but I do have faith in Joel Embiid to stay healthy for the whole season, and we know when Joel Embiid's healthy, they can go on massive winning streaks, like a 10-game winning streak or something. I think he'll stay healthy. Tyrese Maxey's looking pretty good as a young developing player, so I'm going to put them in at number 3rd. In at number 2nd now, I do have the Boston Celtics, the NBA champions, obviously the reigning champs, which does leave me with the New York Knicks in at number 1. The difference between the Celtics and the Knicks this season, it's really hard, but it's very rarely we do see the champions finish first the next season, have a really dominant season. I think Boston are just a really good team. They've got... Who have they got? They've got Al Horford, they've got Porzingis, they've got Jaylen Brown, they've got Jason Tatum, just really quality players that can win you a championship. I do think they will contend this year, obviously, again, being the 2nd seed. But I do think the number 1 seed, who in my predictions, New York Knicks, will be slightly better. They've got guys like Jalen Brunson. They did trade out Julius Randle for Karl Anthony Towns, Cat, who I really rate, and I think he'll help them, and I think their defense is going to really improve with them signing up Cat, and I actually think they did win the trade between Karl Anthony Towns and Julius Randle, obviously, but Julius Randle is a big missing piece in the puzzle, but they've replaced him for Karl Anthony Towns, so they should be fine, and I think this is their year where they can actually make it to the finals. I think they do, and yeah, I think the Knicks make it to the finals, and yeah, I'm gonna have them making it to the finals. So those are my standings for the East. Now, my finals predictions obviously will be the Knicks, and I'm going to put in the Mavericks just for a bit of a switch up. It was definitely between them and the Nuggets, and obviously the Celtics and the Knicks. But I do think it will be a Dallas versus New York final series. Now, who do I have winning? I've got the Mavericks winning. I just think they're so classy with, Kyrie Irving, Tim Hardaway Jr., Derek Lively, Luka Doncic. The list just goes on and on, signing players. They are a collective group now. It's not just Luka Doncic leading them. So they have signed up some good guys and got some good guys in the draft that actually can help out with Luka. And I just think they're going to be another scary team next year. They made it to the finals this year, and I do think they will get their revenge, this time on the Knicks. For my MVP for the whole season, I'm going to go with Luka Doncic winning it. I definitely think he's the really good guy. As for my finals MVP, I'm going to go with Karl Anthony Towns. So yeah, I think he will win finals MVP. I think he'll have a really good finals. But this year, I think Luka Doncic will finally take home the MVP trophy. And yeah, for my defensive player of the year,
I'm going to say AD, all right? I know he's my favourite player. I'm going to be a bit biased, but I really love his defense. You know, if he can at least get just 3 or 4 blocks a game, I think he has it covered. Obviously, there are some guys out there like Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, but I'm going to back in AD to win Defensive Player of the Year. And yeah, those are pretty much it for my predictions. A bit of a different video. If you are if you do follow the NBA, please do let me know what you think of these predictions down in the comments below. But we will see you all in the next video.